All right. Welcome to our workshop meeting. In continuation with what I did last time, which was really fun, I think I've got some other guests tonight who are going to get us started. We'll start with Tucker Coombs is going to lead us in the pledge. He is Harnett Central Senior, works on the campaign trail with Senator Bergen, and has recently been accepted to Harvard, and we are very proud to call him one of our own. So hopefully he doesn't forget us when he moves on. But if you would lead us in the pledge, please, Tucker.
Everyone please stand and face the flag and then salute appropriately. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Tucker.
Congratulations.
Invocation tonight, Pastor Rick Gutierrez has joined us from Anthem Church, and he is going to lead us in invocation right there so we can all hear you.
All right, let's pray. Thank you, Lord Father, so much for this opportunity for us to gather here and for the occasion that is tonight, and that is a meeting to conduct in business in this town. And so, Lord, we call on you to give wisdom and knowledge and insight. You are the fountain, the source of all truth and wisdom and knowledge. And so, Lord, we ask that you would impart that upon those who are in positions of influence, of decisions, of authority, Lord. I ask that you would give them much discernment and prudence as to what to do, how to do it, when to do it. Lord, I pray that there would be much unity. I pray that there would be maturity and integrity among those who lead this town, whether they're elected or work for the town or are first responders. Lord, I pray that you would just give them a heart for this community. We love our town, but Lord, I know that you love this town more than we do. Know, Lord, that as much as we may love our neighbor, you love our neighbor more than we do. And so I ask you, our good and gracious Father in heaven, for you to lead and to guide this community in the right way. I pray, Jesus, that this would be the best place in North Carolina to live, that it would be a place where families are safe and sound, where businesses thrive, where our law enforcement is respected and listened to and heeded, where our teachers, Lord, where they do a great work in the schools and influence the next generation. Lord, I thank you for this town. I thank you for those who are serving in this town. I ask you that you would set their hearts and their minds in one accord together, and that there would be just a spirit of kindness and wisdom. And I pray this all in the matchless name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Rick. Before we get started, I want to mention Jeannie Ellington had a fire. She's the wife of former Mayor R.H. Ellington. She is fine. She lost some pets. I spoke to her today, and she did want me to pass on her gratitude to both the police and our fire department for doing such a great job. It was very important for her to pass that on to me, so I'll mention that tonight. All right. We have the agenda before us. Do we have any amendments proposed?
I would like to make an amendment to the agenda, an addition of number 5, that we have a discussion about adding an inspections department to the town manager.
Any discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. It's unanimous. We'll add that to number 5. All right. We'll have a relatively short and hopefully positive one tonight. So, number 1, Samantha will present to us the annual audit contract for our fiscal year.
Okay, so annually we are required by local government commission to do an audit. So we have a contract proposed for no more than $35,000 to be in compliance with this, and we are there's no financial impact. It's already budgeted for this fiscal year, So we are just looking to make a motion to approve the contract with them so we can move forward with getting that underway.
Okay. This is something we do every year, and I don't think we've deviated much from what we've done in the past. Does anyone have any questions? First, Samantha? Oh, my gosh. All right. I'm sorry.
Where's your cheat sheet?
I don't have a cheat sheet tonight, so I'm winging it. But thank you for telling me. All right. Do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
I make a motion we approve the agenda as amended.
All those in favor, raise your right hand. It's unanimous. All right. So I won't ask you to present that again because I think we got it. But is there any discussion about the audit? Okay.
Make a motion that we go ahead and approve the contract for the audit.
Okay. All those in favor, raise your right hand. It's unanimous. Thank you, Samantha. All right. Number 2, the Andrew Police Department would like to team up with Special Olympics. I believe we've got Captain David Adams here tonight. I think Lee Thompson is at a training.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. Yes, Chief Thompson is out on the Chiefs Conference. So tonight I have our chaplain and special event coordinator, George Miser, to talk about the Special Olympics project that we want to ask permission to.
So to preface this, on the house fire, I just want to make an honorable mention. Our officer, Winters, was the first on the scene. And because of that, everybody got out safe. So she did an amazing job. That's just a footnote. What I'm here to talk about is the working cooperative effort between the Andrew Police Department and the North Carolina Special Olympics. Everybody knows the Special Olympics. It's quite a big event. They have the torch running. In the past, we have helped other departments and would like to be involved with that. And we think it's an amazing thing to be part of the Special Olympic efforts. They have many events. The first thing that comes to mind is, what is the financial liability to the town of Andrew? And that's absolutely zero. Everything that is provided to us to market, to sell for the Special Olympic is given to us. When we raise money, it's all then directly deposited in Special Olympics. So we don't have any control of the money or any of the funds. So we have zero liability. So what we're asking from the board is that they see fit to allow us to partner with the North Carolina Special Olympics so that we can be part of it as Coats and neighboring departments are doing. So we're just requesting a motion to allow us to do it.
All right. So you guys have done this in the past, but worked with other police departments, and now we're ready to
Do our own.
do it on our own. I
Yes,
like
sir.
that.
Yeah.
Well, I very much appreciate you guys and all that you do, but especially for getting involved things like this too. I'm in support of it. So, are there any questions?
I make the motion that we go ahead and support them for the Special Olympics. It'll be
All
good
right.
for the town.
Any discussion? All right, then all those in favor, please raise your right hand. It's unanimous. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
All right. Chrissy Porter is going to speak to us about the formation of the Association for the Advancement of Andrew, 501c3.
Yes. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the board. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to speak to you today. Before I begin, I'd like to introduce and recognize Alex Babbitt. He is our chairman of the Community Development Advisory Board, and he has been a great help and source of support for me as I stepped into this role. And we've elected a lot of new members and have not had an opportunity to revisit our old and who is going to be our leadership going into 2024. And I just want to say how much of a help he's been and how valuable he is to the board and the town. He's also available tonight to speak to any questions that you may have after, in addition to me, after I finish what I need to say. My position and the Community Development Advisory Board were initiated as part of the Main Street program, which came through the Department of Commerce. And we've stepped away from the involvement with the Main Street program, and the charge to my board and to my position has been expanded. So we touch on things such as streetscapes, design, parks, economic development, events, and it's very broad. And with that broad scope also comes broad needs to be financed. One of the rings of the trifecta from the Department of Commerce was the creation of an association, a 501c3, to act as the fundraising branch of, the whole economic development push. That was never done in the past. So we are coming to you asking for your blessing and your support for the creation of the 501c3. We've discussed it in the board. The board has recommended it. It will give us a great opportunity to fundraise and come up with additional sources of funding to do more for the town without it impacting the taxpayer so much. So we recommend the creation of the Association of the Advancement of ANGER. It's a 501c3 to serve as a tool to support and the board and educate the citizens to the initiatives of the board. The slide that I have up explains the differences, and I think you have one on your desk and in your packet. It explains the differences of the board and the corporation. The board is the way it has been, what you're familiar with. The members are selected by you and appointed, and the corporation is formed from those members in the role of president, treasurer, secretary, and vice president and past president. There's not members on that board, but they control the way the money's spent and the initiatives that it supports that are recommended from the board and, of course, with your blessing. Can you go up a little bit with that? So there'll be officers selected, will be nominated by the board at our January meeting and approved by the majority vote of the board. They meet no less than quarterly. I imagine this first year would be more opportunities to fundraise, and there will be opportunities to appropriate that money. But hopefully, as we move forward, we'll have a little more focused, comprehensive plan, and the money will be able to get behind things that we've all come together and envisioned and agreed upon. We also, in your packet, we also have proposed bylaws for that association that outlines that in more detail. Those bylaws were basically, we looked at 3 different towns' bylaws for their association, the Morehead City, Burlington, and the town of Clayton. And these bylaws are roughly based on the town of Clayton. Very few changes except for just wording. And so the creation of 501c3 will give us financial tools to gain additional resources, such as hosting fundraisers, selling tickets to events, writing for grants that are not available to municipalities, soliciting sponsorships for events. Right now, Carolina Trash has agreed to sponsor our Earth Day, but we don't have a 501c3 nonprofit for them to make a tax donation for. So this will open it up to other businesses that want to get involved and increase their visibility in the town and also receive a tax deduction for their choosing to support ANGER. Also merch sales. And So some of our neighbors are using this tool for their advantage and have been doing so for quite some time. Fuquay-Varina has the Fuquay-Varina Downtown Development Association. They also have the Friends of Downtown, which are paid members of this association that are volunteer. So, you know, these are great ways to open up involvement, get more people here. We've got a lot to do, and, you know, it takes a lot of work. We need some help, and this is a great opportunity to do that. Clayton has the Clayton Downtown Development Association that supports the initiative of the Clayton Downtown Development Board and hosts ticketed fundraisers such as Barbecue Blues and Brews. And they maintain the beer gardens at their town events on their lot next door to their town hall. The City of Dunn has 2 associations working to support the mission of the Downtown Development Board. They have the Downtown Dunn Development Authority as well as the Dunn Tourism Authority, which has been very instrumental in saving the historic Stewart Theater and modernizing that and offering services to the residents of Dunn and surrounding areas. So the Community Development Advisory Board and I know that you all believe that Anger has unlimited potential, and the possibilities are endless, and we hope that you'll support this initiative and approve the creation of the 501c3.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a couple of questions, although I'll say I have more questions, and you answered a lot of them already in there. I was going to ask for examples, and you gave us that, and I was going to ask if you had people lined up already to take advantage of this, and it sounds like you do, so thank you for that. Dan looked all over all this.
He did.
Okay.
He looked through it, and he said it was fine with the caveat that he's not a corporate lawyer, but that, you know, this was similar to other proposals that he had worked through with other towns.
Okay. You mentioned about another town, and so it made me curious to know the officers of this corporation, is that a paid position for them?
No.
Okay.
It's volunteer.
That's good. I like that.
Yeah. Yeah, if the bylaws, there's no way for the officers to receive any kind of financial
Okay.
Kickback or anything.
That's good. That just means that all the proceeds
and if
will.
we're, you know, if at some point this were to dissolve and there's money sitting there, this money has to be donated to something that is of a like cause, such as possibly the Chamber of Commerce or something like that. So planning to
That's good.
work together.
So all the profit can go right back to your endeavors.
Right down here, right back to Andrew.
Great. The last question that I had, we would have the final appointment of the officers. Is that, did I understand that right? So you guys would suggest them and we approve them? Or
the bylaws say that they're nominated by the board and approved by the majority of the board at the January meeting. And
our
as
board.
We can, their board.
Development
our board.
Okay. All right.
Made up of members of our board that you've approved.
All right. I ask so I know, just to be clear. So I appreciate that.
Yeah.
That's all I had written down. Does anyone else?
Previous board members and everything, we actually, when it was Main Street, we did try to do the same thing.
Oh, did you?
We were told by the town manager, because they were appointed, the board members or the advisory board was appointed by us, that they could not do a 501c3. So that's, but you said that you've already cleared it with Dan, so now it makes me wonder why we didn't do it in the first place then.
Well, the board members, I guess, are appointed by you, but then when they elect the officers for the association, it's a different entity.
Right. But that was brought to us many years ago, and we were told by the other town manager that we could not do it. So that's why I was asking.
Oh, that's a good question.
Yeah.
I'm going to write that down because I'm making.
Some of our neighbors that you brought up are wildly successful in their endeavor with
They
this.
have been.
So we are missing the mark by not already having it, but here you are with
Well,
your
better
broad
late than
strokes.
never.
That's right. So I appreciate you being creative in your ways to make Answer great. So there's any other question? I'm okay.
I'd like to suggest maybe before you make a motion that perhaps we include in the motion pending, having Dan look into what Miss Hawley brought up, and if that checks out, then we could move forward with it. I think we could probably include that in our motion as a caveat, right? I would suggest that. Yeah. He's going to miss the party.
Well, with that, I make a motion to approve the creation of the nonprofit 501c3 corporation, the Association of the Advancement of Anger, and its operating bylaws, pending Dan's approval.
All right. Any more discussion? Well, all those in favor then, raise your right hand. It's unanimous. Thank you, Chrissy.
Thanks, guys.
All right. We're moving quick here. I'm going to eat dinner at a reasonable hour, it looks like. Number 4 is the discussion of residential development in Andrew. Jeff Jones is going to help us with that, and I'm sure Elizabeth will weigh in. To preface this for anyone who doesn't know, I spoke to the board members individually about concerns that we in the public had about the explosive rate of our growth. And just to be clear, we don't want to stop growth. Is my belief that we need growth to continue moving forward. We're on a very successful path right now. The purpose of why we asked you here was so we could discuss management of it and what we could do to have some control so that we could keep up with the growth without, taking away amenities or service to the people that are here now and the people that are moving here with it. So
sure. Well, thank you, Mayor, for that preference, and we'll get started. Before I get started on this discussion, I do want to introduce my new planner one.
All right.
His name is Zach Carpenter. Zach is here today. Zach comes to us from Texas area, Texas, and he has recently moved to North Carolina with his wife. His wife's family is from here. So we're happy to have Zach on board, and he has been a big help, not only in the department for day-to-day items, but for this presentation tonight.
Great, thank you, Zach.
So to figure out where we are or where we want to go is to sort of have an overview of where we've been and what we're currently doing for residential development. Tonight's discussion will be primarily on residential development. We could have future discussions on non-residential development, and I think that would be appropriate to do so. But for tonight, we're going to focus our discussion on residential development. In preparation for tonight, we staff, Zach and myself, put together a report for you all to review. And it sort of highlighted some development patterns that the town has experienced in recent years. In that report, it outlined sort of two things: our current comprehensive plan, our future land use plan, and how the town is designated into different zones. We'll talk about that. And then we'll talk a little bit about the development that has been approved in recent years and how that may or may not align with our current comprehensive plan. And then we'll talk a little bit about what we can do moving forward if the board would like to do something different than what we're currently developing. In recent years, we have had 23 developments either approved or under review, and with the majority of those approved, I think we have a handful that are under review now, and I'll show you a chart here towards the end of the discussion. Those 23 developments have approved or will approve or will under review approximately 4,000 new lots. Of those 4,000 lots, approximately 1,400 of those lots have been recorded in recent years. And an interesting fact or interesting observation that staff had, and I'm sure LaRue and Jim can attest to this, most, if not all, of the developments have been in a style of R6. R6 would be 6,000 square foot lots. whether those developments were rezoned initially to an R6 in recent years, R6 with conditions, or as we'll sort of see, there's sort of a workaround to rezoning, and that's our planned unit development option in the town of Anger. So of those 23 developments, either approved or under review, most of those are all 6,000 square foot lots. There are a handful that are even smaller than 6,000 square foot lots. Those would be something like in the PUD, because PUDs can set their own zoning, essentially. They can set their minimum lot size, their widths, their depths, their setbacks. That's what a planned development would do. There are a couple of situations or a couple of projects that have 4,800 square foot lots or 4,600 square foot lots. How does what we have approved as a town, how does that relate back to our comprehensive plan? Our comprehensive plan was adopted in 2017. We had an update to our comprehensive plan map, our future land use map, in 2021. What our comprehensive plan mainly does is sets out the vision of the town, gives you all and the developing world and our citizens and residents and anyone who's interested in Anger an idea of how Anger is going to develop and grow throughout the period of time that this comprehensive plan is good for. Usually comprehensive plans are good for 10, 20, 30 years. It sets that vision for the town. So our comprehensive plan, again, was back in 2021, was updated, and so we have what we have on the screen today. You'll see a majority of the land that Anger has influence on, whether it's in our jurisdiction or just outside of our planning jurisdiction, but the land use plan, what you'll see in yellow here, that's medium density residential. So our plan had approximately 60% of our planning jurisdiction set up as medium density residential. That designation, if it were to be translated to a zoning district, that usually translates to a R10, R15 zoning district. So the 10 and the 15, that would be 10,000 square foot lots or 15,000 square foot lots. When you start seeing some of the higher densities up in this area in Wake County and maybe like Neils Point, a new subdivision, Honeycutt Oaks, that will be platting soon, in sort of in this area right here, those are high density areas in town. And some of the recent developments that have been approved either through a PUD process or through rezoning, those, and they were R6 developments, those fit more appropriately into the high density designation for the town. So some of the projects that we have approved fit the vision of the town. Some, however, as I mentioned on the PUDs especially, have been approved that don't necessarily align with this comprehensive plan. They were approved in areas that were designated for medium density residential. That's okay. That's a decision that the board and the town needs to make. And when developers come to either request a rezoning of a property or a planned development before the Board of Adjustment, you all as boards need to make those decisions on how the town grows. Maybe since 2017, when this plan was first adopted, things have changed a little bit. And so decisions that were made to approve some developments that had smaller lots, those were based off of decisions that you all heard at that meeting, especially on a planned unit development, because those decisions are quasi-judicial decisions that when you all are acting as a Board of Adjustment, you have to make decisions based off of testimony that you've been given at the meeting. So let's see. Here's subdivision status map. So these are all the subdivisions that are either, and we need to update it just a little bit more. Zach was working on a chart for us that I'll show to you a little bit later, but Zach will update this map shortly, and we'll have it available for you all and the public to view. But this shows built out established subdivisions, proposed subdivisions, or those that are under construction. What you'll see is that we have a lot more under construction versus proposed, because the chart really shows you what's really being built today and then what's been platted. So as you can see, a lot of current development is around the center of Anger, and up into to Wake County area. Lots of new development south of the core area of town, in this area, and then in this area through here too. So this is the chart that Zach worked on and we worked on to sort of give us an idea of where our projects are. Either they're currently under review, or construction drawings have been approved and someone could actually pull permits and start building, or site work is underway, or as they're in red, all the lots have been platted for that subdivision and they're building houses there. So what you'll see is that we have in recent, since my time here, and I started in May, we've had 4 new projects that have been submitted to me for review. Those would be Canterbury Farms, Wimberley Place, Alden Park, and Garner Farms. So those are in various stages of either preliminary plat review or construction drawing review. And in the case of the PUD and the SUP here and Alden Park, those will be board action decisions that you all will have to make at future meetings, either as the Board of Adjustment, because those will all be special use permits. What we see is that we've had a lot of subdivisions record all their lots. We have a lot of site work happening, and at least one that's approved but no site work is started. So all this residential development that has come to town, developers are building. So they are constructing, they're wanting to be in Anger, and we see it on a day-to-day basis here. I was going through building permits and how many we've issued over the period of time. There was years that we would issue no less than 100 new homes, and that was not that long ago, 2015, 2016.
Yeah.
We're issuing 80 a month now. It's because all of these lots have been platted, through here, and all these are underway. So Anger is growing. We're seeing, substantial amount of new homes being built based off all these lots that have been approved in the past. What will happen is, some of these that were approved, 2, 3, 4 years ago, you're now starting to see the houses come up. Some of them were approved last year and the houses are coming up. So they're that quick.
Yeah.
It just depends on how much site work has to be done.
Right.
But that's sort of the current status of where we are in residential development. What was interesting is that we took a look at prior zoning, and this column has, whether it was R10, R30, R6, and then what the current zoning is. Those projects that are currently approved, we have R30s, R6, R30s, R6. Those are pretty much all these projects, with the exception being Cotswold down here. But look at their minimum lot size, 4,800 square feet. So there again, it's R6 style development, even if the zoning is what it is. The way Anger's PUD section of the ordinance sort of allows for this to happen is that the PUD is a use. It's not a zoning district. So a use and it's quasi-judicial. So a PUD would be something that the Board of Adjustment would take care of. There would be standards that the board, that's outlined in the ordinance for PUDs. We have a couple of pages of those in our current zoning ordinance. And then there would be a hearing, an evidentiary hearing, where you all would, you know, hear testimony from staff, from the developer, from, you know, people in favor, people in opposition, and then you would make a decision. PUDs have to be based, the decision has to be based on factual evidence that you receive at that hearing. Can't be opinion based, and that's where some of these decisions are hard for you all to, I would think, make, because they have to be based off of facts that are delivered at the meeting and not necessarily, I don't want this in my backyard kind of thing. The opposite of that is a rezoning. That's a legislative decision, and someone could come to you all and say, I don't really want this. And you all could go back and say, well, does it fit this? Does it fit our current comprehensive plan? Well, no. Our current comprehensive plan says you need to have closer to 10,000 square foot lots. You're proposing 4,800 square foot lots. Why should we rezone this property for you? It's easier for you all to scrutinize a rezoning than it is for you all to scrutinize a planned development, because of those parameters around a quasi-judicial decision versus a legislative decision. So keep that in mind as we continue to talk about residential development and how the current ordinances are you know set for us. But it is kind of telling that, it's very telling that today's market, what developers are looking for, and it's not only for Anger, it's in most places, it's smaller lots. R6, I've seen as small as R5, 5,000 square foot lots be part of a zoning ordinance that one could go to. 7,500 square foot lot.
Is that for single family? R5?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, look what we've got at Cotswold. If you go to Cotswold out there, they're 4,800 square foot lots.
Almost a tenth of an acre.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the market is there for these types of developments. Clearly, that's what's coming to Anger. That's what we've heard.
Sure.
What we have to do as a town moving forward is to make sure that style of development fits our vision. It may not today. I think there could be an argument that some of this doesn't fit our vision. Some does, because some of our vision was high density. Clearly, these are high density. Some didn't. But those decisions were made at those meetings, mm-hmm. and by, the facts that were presented at those mm-hmm. meetings. So, but what can we do as a town moving forward? There are a couple of things long range that we can do, and a couple of things that we can do short range. Long range, I think we need to update the comprehensive plan.
Yeah.
It's from 2017. It was an update to the map in 2021. But as a town, we've seen substantial growth, and we know that it's going to continue to come. So we need to set that vision for the next 10, 15, 20 years. So you all, staff, developers, residents, people who want to be a part of Anger, know how Anger is going to grow.
Yeah.
Especially those folks who own property in Anger, where development is going to come, where there's large vacant parcels. They will be able to look at this plan and see, oh, this is supposed to be mm-hmm. medium density residential or high density or mixed use. I could see us in the future, our future comprehensive plan, really sort of getting into that mixed residential, mixed use categories and kind of going away from high density, medium density, low density, and trying to encourage, especially along major transportation routes such as the bypass.
Yeah.
And our current comprehensive plan does that mixed use, but we want to refine what mixed use is, really define what we want as a town, have examples. This is what we would like to have, so the developing community knows that. You all know that whenever somebody's standing here saying, can I please rezone this property? So long range, we need to update our comprehensive plan. I'm going to be working with the town manager during budget season, so you all will see that in our proposed budget. Those are pricey, but those can take a little, those can take up to a year to complete, because what we would hold a series of, meetings with the public, meetings with you all, meetings with developers, to find that vision, to get to that point. So it takes a little while. We would hire consultants to do that for us, and come up with a plan that speaks to what Anger is going to be for the next 20 years. It goes hand in hand with a new comprehensive plan is zoning ordinances, unified development ordinances that meets the vision of the town. So if the town wants to develop in a certain way, we have to amend the ordinances hand in hand of comprehensive plan. So those are long-term things that we can do. Short-term things that we can do, that myself and Zach and others can do, is research and bring to you all through the planning board ordinance amendments that speak to plan developments. I didn't touch on this a lot, but I think when we're studying residential development, we need to look at our multifamily use in the ordinance. It was surprising to me going through the ordinance that someone could own a piece of property next to in any zoning district, pretty much R10, 6, 15, and put 19 townhomes without any type of public hearing, without any type of say from their neighbors.
I wouldn't even cross our desk.
No, would not.
Just go straight to you and
would go straight to
approved.
TRC. We would review it based off of the ordinances that we have in place, and we would be compelled to approve it if they met all of the town ordinances. 19 units, that's a lot. That can be a very dense project in an established residential area town. So that's a problem in the making. So we need to look at that a little bit. If you go above 19, 20 or more, then it's a special use permit, and it would come to the Board of Adjustment. What we need to do for that is appropriate for a special use permit, but to look at the regulations that would establish what a townhome community, what a multifamily residential community would look like. So right now there's like just a handful of regulations. Perimeter setback, and that's about it for townhomes. So that's another problem.
And that's an ordinance.
Yeah, that's an ordinance right now. So again, if somebody were to come to you all in the Board of Adjustment, based off of facts, based off of what you hear, you might be compelled to say yes, or there are overarching community value standards that you all will have to consider too when approving a special use permit. So that's something that we'll have to take a look at. So two things that I think we could do, within the next few months is to look at the PUD section, maybe remove that as a use and come up with a zoning district that is a mixed residential zoning that would allow for, because most of these PUDs are mixed residential. They're townhomes and single family. So we come up with a mixed residential zoning district that people need to zone into.
Is that the only way that they can make that mixed residential use happen, is via a PUD?
Right now, yes.
And so that's, I mean, I see that theme.
Yes.
Right? It's not hard to read it. Thank you for
there's a
making the
bunch of
chart
them.
because it's very clear,
Yes.
Yeah.
the theme.
Yeah. That's exactly it. Most new developers are wanting to maximize units on land, and townhomes is how to do that.
Yeah.
They're popular. The market wants townhomes. But yes, PUD, that's the only way to make that happen right now. Other jurisdictions don't have PUDs as uses. They have them as a separate zoning district that you all would have the ability to scrutinize a little bit more if somebody came to you all and said, I'd like to do a mixed residential community and zone into that type of zoning district. So we're going to work on looking at some other jurisdictions and bring some things to the planning board, and then hopefully on to you all in the next couple of months on that. If you all say yes to that tonight. And again, looking at the not apartments, but the townhomes, multifamily standards, maybe looking at rolling back the number that is just permitted by right. Maybe it's a small townhome, 2, 3, maybe up to 5 units is okay, but then anything over that has to be a special use permit and come with more regulations to you all, so you all can make a decision. And the public can come out and say, yeah, this doesn't really fit within our established neighborhood. So we would look at those. So that's a lot of information, and I know you all have questions and or thoughts on development in town, but having the chart sort of going through how's development been occurring over the last few years, and it's kind of, there's a tell, it's R6 and it's PUDs. And that doesn't necessarily align with the vision that the town had at one time. It may be the vision that we have moving forward. We just haven't went through that process.
Yeah. So before we discuss too much, I just want to clear a couple things for anybody who's paying attention to us tonight. We are not interested really to dwell on what the board made in the past. I can understand why we wanted high density. We're trying to build population with the ultimate goal to attract more commercial.
Right.
And so can understand and certainly don't judge or anything that has already been approved. We can't do anything about it anyway, but I don't have a sour taste in my mouth because I know where we were going at that time. I'm not sure it's where we're still going, and that's what we're here to talk about tonight. Obviously, we're not going to deal with anything comprehensive land use plan tonight, but I do think that, given the rate at which the landscape has changed, that we should probably dig into that again later this year. And then the last thing is that we don't have the stance that developers are the bad guys. They're not crooks. We need the developers to work with us to help us grow. That being said, thank you and Zach very much for putting this together. This chart especially kind of shows where, there's a loophole or, it worked for one guy and then it worked for the next guy. And then, it's going to work for anybody who brings it to us. So I am very interested tonight to talk about, I guess, as much as we can fit under legislative decisions, which is more up to us and kind of what we want, not necessarily semi-judicial things like that. So the two things I wrote down, just so I can make sure I understand it, and correct me if I'm wrong, we've got an opportunity with PUDs to take PUD out of a special use permit and into a zoning issue.
Correct.
Which would then give us more control.
It would.
Outside of Board of Adjustments, now where rezoning comes to just this board, where we could consider all input.
Right.
and make decisions based on that. And this is something that other areas are doing already, so we wouldn't be blazing a new trail with this, but maybe, it'll help us and it still falls in line with kind of things that are happening around us locally. The other one I wrote down was the townhome count up to 19, and depending on how you look at the number 19, it's either a lot or not a lot, but it certainly has potential to be a lot on a small property. And so you are mentioning to us that we've got really two ways that we can maybe get some more control over that, which is to reduce that number simply to something that we decide is more appropriate. And the other one is to work on the standards for townhomes in general, so that even if it doesn't cross our desk and they stay under the new minimum, they still will have to conform to a design that we want to see for a development with townhome. Again, which would be legislative decision. So I'm very glad that you brought that to it. This is, I'll speak for myself. A lot of this is new information for me. You understand far more than I do about how we can get control and the workarounds and stuff like that.
Well, it's a good time for us to have the discussion.
Yeah.
We have new board members. I've been with Andrew for 8 months now, so I've sort of been able to observe things that have happened.
And where did you come from before?
I was in the private sector, but then I was the planning director in Pittsburgh for 5+ years, and then Holly Springs. And
I say that just so you could toot your horn a little bit.
Well,
so I know, but so everyone knows that you've got experience in watching local areas develop ahead of us. Yeah. So I think we can get some good insight from you on how we can get what we want moving forward.
Do my best for Andrew. I love Andrew. I love being here. Yeah. And also think about, you all are the Board of Adjustment today, but there has been discussion as to making a new Board of Adjustment and having that more of a citizen-led board, and having those types of decisions on folks that aren't elected. And you all may not want that for an unelected board. When it comes to a project that's 400 or 500 units in front, that there feels like needs to be a little bit more, that you can have a little bit more say in that. And it could be that the zoning goes through you all, and then the actual development may go to the Board of Adjustment for various development standards that needs to be waived or what have you. But to the fact of you all being elected and making a decision on a large development, so you all can say yes or no and explain that to your constituents, that needs to be a legislative decision for you all to make, and not for an elected board.
And even so, if it goes to Board of Adjustments, it's not a lot of opinion to be had. To make decisions based on the evidence you're presented. So,
with the removal of the PUD, the occurrence of a Board of Adjustment response is not, that would,
does it seem
they
less
wouldn't
likely?
line up, because you wouldn't have to have the Board of Adjustment weigh in on a planned unit development that doesn't exist any longer. So the Board of Adjustment will be weighing in on different decisions,
They'd
or
be weighing in on more
special use permits
for other types of uses, or variances. Yes.
So that could almost be an advantage to a developer too, in some cases. And not have to go through semi-judicial process. If they can present to us something that fits with what we're looking for, then we can just move forward from there.
And today's vision, or that part of town, is, a part of town is today's vision, but 3 years from now, something that's occurred in that part of town where, you all may make a decision that's counter to any type of land use plan. Remember in the memo I said, you can make changes. You can go against a land use plan. You just got to think carefully about that and make good decisions. So it's not unheard of to say, well, it doesn't quite fit, but we can figure out how to make it fit because we want it. We understand that things have changed in that part of town, and everybody wants it. So let's make a decision based off of that.
And with our boom of residential development, we want to make ourselves more attractive to commercial development, and in that way, we need to make sure that the land use plan reflects that attractive quality of potential commercial development in certain areas.
Yeah. What we do hope is that these 4,000 plus lots brings more commercial and the commercial that the town needs and wants.
Yeah.
What's not seen on this chart is another part of the chart, which is below it, that has commercial that has been either approved or under review, and it really is just a handful.
Yeah.
And you all know that.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't show it tonight because tonight was residential, but Zach went through the process of figuring out what commercial has been approved or under review, and it really was just a handful or so.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but you know, my understanding is that the reason we want residential growth is not, you know, simply for tax base, because we get much more return on the tax side from commercial use.
Right.
That also does not tax the school system, doesn't often tax the police department. So the reason we want to grow residentially, and now, you know, maybe more in a controlled way, is to attract that commercial.
Correct.
So we then can provide more offerings for the people who live here, increase tax revenue without hopefully increasing much other, you know, work that we have to do to support that. So
that's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Saying that to make sure I get it.
For years of my time in Fuquay or Holly Springs, developers commercially would come to us, to me, and you just don't have the rooftops yet. You don't have the rooftops. That's what
I know.
what
That's
we're hearing.
that's how it's been for a while.
Yeah, that's what Andrew's hearing. But I can tell you, you're on the path to getting.
It sure looks like we're about to double.
Right.
Well, and our edges are beginning to touch our neighbors in Coates and Lillington and Fuquay, of course. You know, so with those.
Yeah, it's not very far to get to other places. So yeah. And for those folks to come here.
Yeah.
And the bypass is going to assist with that too, of where new commercial will want to be. You know, it will set itself up much like Holly Springs. Hopefully we will learn from problems that have arisen there.
Yeah.
That we don't have those here, but our bypass in Holly Springs will set up pretty similar to what you see there. Yeah. Hopefully we'll have a little business park off of our bypass like Holly Springs does.
Yeah.
We'll have a little shopping area. We'll have some apartments one day. Those are all things that we'll
have room to put it. There's another big problem
will.
for commercial like that.
That's
even if some of these wanted to come here right now.
Right.
Where are they going to put it? You know.
Right.
Certainly want it inside town limits. So take advantage of it.
Right.
Do you guys have any other questions? Discussion? You got the man right here.
Well, I'm here most meetings, so
right now you're right here.
Yeah, right here, right now.
We've had our discussion.
Right.
Yeah.
Thanks for taking time to break it down, and you know.
No, it's
you're the expert.
It's a good exercise to do this. I told Elizabeth this chart.
It puts it in perspective.
Yeah.
I feel like we'll be using this chart for other things.
Yeah.
So the effort to make it, it's not wasted.
I have a quick question,
Yeah,
just a little
please.
clarification. For the R30, for the ones who the minimum lot size are like the 4,800 square foot, explain that to me again. How it's R30 and has that small.
That's weird, right? It doesn't seem like it should be that way.
Yeah.
Because if you look at our zoning map would say that parcel, that area of town is zoned R30, 30,000 square foot lots. But the planned development use is a workaround to zoning. They are.
And they don't even have to change their zoning. They
No,
can stay R30.
no. You know, there was decisions in the past to encourage development, as we've
Sure.
talked about tonight.
Yeah.
That certainly is a way to encourage development, to make things a little not easier, but just another way to
Sure.
to create. There's still a public hearing, but it's a different type of public hearing.
Yeah.
Right. So, again, we can't fault decisions that were made in the
No,
past.
and we don't.
And decision in direction. We're just maybe going a different way this time.
Well, it's good that it happened because we could sit here and look at it and decide
Right.
if this is how we want to continue or have an opportunity to do something different.
Right.
And you really brought us some great things you've noticed
Yeah.
that I probably wouldn't have picked up on that will give us some of that control.
We can work on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So tonight, what can we do to get the ball rolling on this? Not necessarily make a decision. We're not going to make a decision on some of this stuff tonight because it's got a process to go through.
I think it's really just directing staff to look at the short-term
Yeah.
items and look at long-term items through the budget process.
Mm-hmm. All right. Do we need a motion for that?
Will for budget process, you don't necessarily direct.
So you don't you don't need a motion right now because it's going to be budgeted in the coming year's budget.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I would love to look into this stuff
Yeah.
to see what we can do.
Zach and myself will get on it, and we will first sort of develop things in-house, and then we'll send them to the planning board. Planning board will weigh in,
Mhm.
give some options, some opinions, and then it'll come to you all for a public hearing.
Okay.
Okay? All right.
Thank both of you guys very much.
Thank you. All right.
I know you got plenty to do, so I appreciate you taking time
No,
to
is
put
good.
this together
This is what
for
we
us.
do, too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know,
Yeah.
but still, I still appreciate it.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, so we could kind of segue that into the new agenda item, number 5, which is the need to potentially create our own inspections department. I'll let Elizabeth, if she will, just kind of really quick tell us the situation we're in and what our options might be,
Sure.
just real simply.
So for several years, we've had a contract with Harnett County to provide building inspections to all of the residential properties and some commercial that are being built in town. They have notified me that they do not wish to continue contracting with us, although they've said that they would entertain a conversation. So knowing that, I've had conversations with the town of Lillington to see if there is a way to collaborate and have sort of a contract with them to perform our inspections. We're still working out the details on that, so I don't have an actual proposal to bring you. The only other option would be for the board to direct me to present a plan to hire a chief building inspector and another building inspector at our next meeting. And that would need to be voted on, and a budget amendment would be needed as well.
Sure. So I've spoken with a lot of these guys individually. I understand that the contract we're in now was a temporary one anyway, I think already.
So I think we entered it into 2018.
Mhm.
I don't have it in front of me.
That's all right.
But it's about $90,000 a year.
Yeah.
And the number of inspections that they're doing, basically, I mean, it's like
Yeah.
they're getting paid $20 an inspection. So
Yeah.
you can see why
Yeah.
that would be problematic for the county.
Their reasoning for not initially at least wanting to extend the contract made sense to me, especially in a temporary manner because they've got staff problems too.
Right.
And so to enter any agreement with us for a short-term period doesn't benefit them to have to hire more staff only to be turned over. So I think a lot of us are interested, and I'll let them weigh in too, are interested to venture out and create our own inspections department because we might be able to find ways to work through it in the short term, but we know, especially after seeing this, that it's a matter of time before we're going to want to have our own inspections department and be able to control the funding of it and how inspection fees are spent. And so I would like to at least have you get us some numbers.
Sure.
So that we can get moving on this. I think a lot of us are ready to get moving on something.
Okay.
You guys have anything to add? Okay.
I think in the future we're going to need one anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Keep more of the profit in town.
Yeah. It's kind of a theme that we've been looking at lately. Is now that the town is successful, we're doing well, and we're growing rapidly. And I think if we're able to support an inspections department, do nothing but create some more jobs here and keep all the control within the town. And
I definitely think that will benefit by having our own department.
And we don't have to depend on someone else.
Right. Because we're not going to slow down in growth for any time soon, so we're going to keep them busy.
As we approach the size of a city, it's typical that cities maintain full staff that kind of handle all those different facets. So,
yeah. So I don't know that we need a motion for that either, but I would at least like for you to bring us some numbers on what you think an inspections department would require as far as staff, equipment, stuff like that.
And maybe projected.
Yeah.
The projected cost for their salaries compared to the projected monetary value that the town would get by having our own.
What's it going to cost and how we're going to pay for it?
Any money that stays in the town is good.
Because ultimately, if we hire out with Lillington or if we hire out with the county continuing, that money leaves Anger.
Yes.
Because inspection money has to stay with inspection, as we've learned from the higher ups that,
That's correct. And the county will continue the inspections until the end of the fiscal year, so until June 30th.
And
so we have a little bit of time, but not a tremendous amount of time.
Yeah.
And like it was briefly touched on, it's not that the county has staff that's just sitting around and they're saying, no, we don't want to do it. It's that we have now got 4,000 homes that will need inspections. And so it's a...
Right.
And that's just the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah. What we're dealing with today.
Yeah.
So, all right.
Okay. Well, I'll be glad to bring that back to you at our next meeting.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. If no one has anything to add, then I guess we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Are we going to... Did you scan the information?
We just want to make sure that the formation of, especially with that concern. Yeah. All right. But we're in support of it pending. You checking that out. All right. Okay. Ball's in your guys' court.
Experience, and this just came to me because I thought about it. The Dunn Tourism Authority, their commissioners don't appoint their board. Their board appoints their board. So maybe that's the difference where you guys get like we do with. Yeah, please.
Please.
Well, we base if it can't be done, then Clayton's doing it wrong. Because they do their board appointments the same way we do. Our bylaws for our board are very similar to theirs, and they have the association appointed by. We kind of went right by their model. So Yeah, and they're, their town's doing great.
Yeah.
So,
I'm assuming it's fine.
yeah.
gonna-
I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm no attorney, so
Yeah.
I'll defer to Dan for sure.
We don't want to find out. And if Clayton's wrong, we'll be the first one to turn him in. No, I'm just kidding. I love Clayton. All right.
I make a motion that we adjourn.
All those in favor of adjourning, raise your right hand. There you go. You're in. It's unanimous. We are adjourned. Thank you, guys.